The secret of crisis management is not good versus bad. It is about ensuring that bad does not become worse. All of us face a situation in our personal lives and professional lives where we deal with a crisis. Thankfully, one or two, no more. But when we are dealing with a crisis, it has to be dealt with in a systematic and a structured and a very effective manner. In this context, we at MGC Global have come up with 10 key commandments in terms of the approach to effective crisis management. The first of those 10 commandments is preparation. While you're preparing for a crisis, you have to set out clear objectives in terms of what is it that you would like to achieve from your crisis management plan. Is it the safety of your people? Is it minimization of losses? Or is it protection of your brand? So preparation as a phase is very, very important. Setting clear objectives in terms of what you hope to achieve from your crisis management plan. The second phase is looking at various scenarios that come up from your risk assessment. What constitutes a crisis? What are the triggers? What are the risks that lead to that crisis? So a crisis management plan has to be effectively integrated with your enterprise-wide risk management framework, and there are different components that also need to be considered in your crisis management plan, which include disaster recovery, business continuity, and enterprise high availability. The third is to establish very clear activation protocols. What will really trigger a crisis? Who needs to act, and in what manner, in what sequence, which really leads to the chain of command, where you have clear roles and responsibilities for people in your organization, because crisis management is not one person's job. It is an organizational-wide, collaborative, cohesive initiative that needs to be put into place. After the chain of command, you must have a command center, which is really what is that body that will essentially ensure that systems, controls, policies, procedures, and different checklists, etc., are being monitored at the time of a crisis. And similar to having a business continuity or disaster recovery, what if the command center by itself is inactivated? You must have a backup command center. Then you must have responses. You must have response plans very clearly articulated for potential crisis type situations that you've already developed in the earlier stages, leading to an effective internal communication plan, how you're going to communicate and what are you going to communicate. So the means of communication, the people whom you're going to communicate to, and what are the messages that you would like to pass on to them. An external communication plan, which is how would you deal with the outside world. You must have adequate resource planning earmarked. Resources have to be earmarked so that you can leverage on them with minimal disruption and minimal loss of time when you're dealing with a crisis. After setting together an effective resource inventory, you must train your people to be able to, it could be in the form of mock drills, it could be in the form of various training sessions, so that when a crisis disrupts, people are prepared and they know what they need to do and they've gone through a mock drill. So effectively, there's no panic mode, and it's like a pre-rehearsal to an actual crisis, because in a crisis, there is no second take. And lastly, it's about continuously evaluating the effectiveness of your crisis management plan by bringing outside in, by looking at changing scenarios. So these effectively are the 10 key commandments that we at MGC Global have developed, which will help an organization deal with a crisis in the most effective manner.